What if the United States steps back from NATO? What if Vladimir Putin sees an opening and makes his move? And what if the entire Western alliance begins to collapse? That's not a conspiracy theory, it's a real possibility. And it's unfolding right now. In today's deep dive, we'll uncover why Trump is threatening NATO, why even Republicans are fighting back, and what this means for America's future. Stay with us, because this is a story you can't afford to ignore. March 6, 2025. The Associated Press reports that Trump shocked the world with his comments about NATO. Speaking in the Oval Office, Trump dropped a bombshell. "If they don't pay, I'm not going to defend them." He's talking about America's closest allies, Germany, France, the UK, countries that have stood by the US for decades. Trump's argument? NATO members aren't paying their fair share. But here's the twist. By the end of 2024, 23 out of 32 NATO countries actually met the 2% GDP target. What's even more shocking? It's not just Democrats pushing back, it's Republicans. Trump's own party. Senator Roger Wicker, head of the Senate Armed Services Committee, issued a direct warning. Any changes to NATO must go through Congress. Then there's Senator John Cornyn. His concern? Trump's soft stance on Russia. He warns, Putin cannot be trusted. For the first time, Republicans are openly challenging Trump on a foreign policy issue. And that's a big deal. Here's what many people don't know. Congress saw this coming, and they passed a law to stop it. Back in December 2023, Congress enacted the National Defense Authorization Act, and it makes it illegal for any president to pull the US out of NATO without a 2/3 Senate vote. That means, even if Trump wants to withdraw from NATO, he legally can't do it alone. But does that stop him? No. Trump's team is already exploring legal loopholes to undermine NATO without technically leaving it. And this is where things get even more concerning. Because while Trump threatens NATO, his friendly stance toward Putin raises even bigger questions. According to reports, Trump's advisors have hinted that if NATO allies don't pay up, he might turn a blind eye to Russian aggression. Let that sink in. The former and possibly future President of the United States is sending signals that could embolden Russia. And the biggest losers? The millions of people who depend on NATO for security. The reaction from NATO? Fury. French President Emmanuel Macron calls Trump's threats reckless. NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg reminds the world that NATO defended the US after September 11th. But behind the scenes, European leaders are terrified. If the US signals weakness, Russia could test NATO's limits, and that could mean war. So what happens next? Will Congress block Trump's NATO threats? Will Putin exploit the chaos? Will America's global standing crumble? One thing is clear. This fight isn't just about NATO. It's about America's role in the world. And the decisions made now will shape the next decade. This is one of the biggest geopolitical battles of our time. What do you think? Is Trump right to demand more from NATO? Or is he playing a dangerous game? And if you want to stay ahead of world events, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. We'll keep you updated as this story unfolds.